Thanks for joining Let's Get to Talking, presented to you by Black Gay Table Talk. I'm Keenan.
I'm Dorian.
Join us as we take you on a journey of discussion from two Black gay male perspectives.
Get ready for authentic, heartfelt, raunchy, thought-provoking, and relatable shows.
We're happy to be a part of your podcast family.
Let's get to talking.
Hello, everybody, and welcome to another episode of Let's Get to Talking, presented to you by Black Gay Table Talk. I'm Keenan.
And I'm Dorian.
And for today's episode, we're actually going to tackle something that I know we all have experienced, toxic relationships. So we'll be touching on navigating toxic relationships and finding healing. Just to keep in mind, we are not therapists by any means, but what we do want to do is bring about the conversation so that, there can be some type of idea or ideas of what healing can look like. Toxic relationships do exist, so it is what it is.
Let's get to talking.
Let's get to talking. All right, friends. So how would one identify a toxic relationship? Like, how do you know that you're in a toxic relationship?
I would say if you are in a relationship that you know is not thriving, flourishing, there's some form of toxic there. And when you get to a point where you know you should be leaving a relationship and you're just in it for convenience, but you're not growing, can it be resolved? I'm sure it can.
Yeah, most times. Well, but there are times where it should go. Like,
let's just say goodbye.
Yes, let's
and
just
move on.
Say goodbye.
We look at, even in the media, you see some celebrities who we know are in toxic relationships.
Mm-hmm.
I think it's something that we all encounter,
Mm-hmm.
whether it's ourselves or our friends or our family.
Mm-hmm.
And just like anything else, there's different levels of a toxic relationship.
True. So some that I kind of thought about were ones where you have the emotional manipulation that happens, people that like to play off your feelings and stuff like that.
Mm-hmm.
You have control, gaslighting. There are all kinds. So first and foremost, I think for me, you at some point have to know what's healthy for you and what's good for your well-being. So you have to know what doesn't make you feel good. You know what I'm saying? And there's a difference
Correct.
between someone who brings you out of your comfort zone and someone who makes you uncomfortable. You get what I'm saying?
Correct.
So I think it takes one, knowing you and being able to figure out what makes you feel good. And then the other piece is identifying the type of toxicity that exists in that person, or it may not be the person, it might just be your relationship.
We as humans, I believe, we all have a type, and we can look at that through past relationships. We tend to gravitate towards a certain type of person as a rule.
True.
And it's learning. I think as I've gotten older, I can say I've learned the type of person that I don't work well with, and it becomes a toxic relationship.
I get that.
It's learning to, and sometimes that doesn't come to a later age. I'll be the first to admit it. It's not something that I knew off in my early 20s or early 30s, like, oh my God, I shouldn't be with this type of person. But as I've gotten older, I'm like, no, that doesn't work for me.
True.
And sometimes you have to grow into your maturity, and through that maturity, you learn that certain personalities just don't work well for you. Whether you become codependent or you become the authority in the relationship,
Mm,
control factor.
yeah.
Did I
So
hit
have
on something?
I mean, yeah, you did. But let me ask you, have you in identifying what are some, I guess, toxic relationships that you've experienced? And you don't have to talk about anybody in particular, but what have you experienced?
Man- People trying to manipulate things.
Mhm.
As I've gotten older, I appreciate a very straightforward person.
Mhm.
Whether whether I want to hear it or not, but if you can come to me just directly,
Mhm.
as opposed to trying all of these different creative ways of manipulating me into
Giving them what they
seeing
want.
right, seeing your side of something. Um, it doesn't work for me. Just tell me what it is.
Yeah.
I work better with that now. And I think that comes with maturity because I think going back to my early 20s and my early 30s, that may not have worked well for me.
Got it.
And as we age, we change, whether we want to believe it or not. Not only do we physically change, but our emotional needs change. And what you need at one stage of your life, you may not necessarily need at your next stage.
Hmm. I've experienced a few of them. I've experienced the control piece. I've experienced the people who try to manipulate me or have tried to manipulate me. Um Telling me what I wanna hear. And I will admit, I've experienced, physical abuse at a particular time in my life. Um,
I'm sorry, repeat that.
I've experienced physical abuse at a
Okay.
particular time in my life. I mean,
Hmm.
if you name it, I can tell you I've experienced it. Some things I haven't, right? But but yeah, I mean, it happens, and knowing what happened and processing it and understanding what happened,
Hmm.
it leads to a healthier you, as you grow and as you develop, as you continue to learn yourself and try to have other relationships. I think that it's very important to know and understand what happened and why it happened. And I know I asked you this question, like, how would one recognize it? I think for me at those times in my life, my friends and this is a romantic relationship I'm talking about now,
Okay.
but my friends couldn't tell me anything. Like, I knew, this my man, like, he's good for me, I'm loving it, XYZ, but I didn't realize it was unhealthy or it was a bad or toxic relationship until pretty much close to the end because I was so vested, like, "Oh, I have to make this work. I don't wanna be a stereotype." Like, people think that, gay relationships age in dog years already, so I gotta make sure I do the best that I can do, you know what I'm saying? Like, let me give it my all, but towards the end, when I looked around at my life and how much had fallen and how much I'd lost, it that was it for me. I was like, "You know what? I can't tell you what pushed me to stop and take that look around me, but whatever it was that stopped me and pushed me to take a look, I'm thankful for it because I was pretty much almost at rock bottom. I was almost there. So, I think sometimes depending on the relationship, you can be blinded. It's harder to identify.
I d- I can say I don't know that I have ever experienced being in a relationship. I've been in a relationship that I didn't want to end,
Mhm.
but there wasn't any physical abuse in the relationship,
Mhm.
but I knew deep down inside it wasn't the relationship that I knew was my forever relationship.
Mm.
And it was just hard to leave. And I think for that reason, God saw I wasn't going to leave it on my own,
Mhm.
and he made a way for it to end.
Ooh, that's deep. Come on now.
And
It
as
makes
I
you take a deep
sit
breath.
back years later, and I must say, thank you for shutting that door in front of me because you were truly protecting me.
All
And
right.
sometimes we look at events in our lives and we're like, oh, why is this happening? And my spiritual side reminds me it's happening for a reason. The
Mhm.
Lord is protecting you from something.
Mhm.
And though
Mhm.
you may not see what he's protecting you from at the moment, let me tell you, over the course of the years, I can now say I see what he was protecting me from.
Wow.
And I had a conversation with another friend, somewhat about something similar to this conversation. And they were like, well, I still know this person. And they were like,
Mhm.
well, how do you think things would have been if you would have stayed in this person's life?
Mhm.
You think things would be better? And I'm like, maybe for them, but not necessarily for me. That
Mm.
person didn't have the fertilizer that needed to fertilize me.
Mm. All right.
So I don't see there would have been any growth in that relationship.
Yeah, that's interesting. So, have you had toxic have you
Friendships.
had those, like the non-romantic ones?
Uh, I'm going to say no. And here's the reason I'm going to say no. Because if I consider you a friend and I let you in my inner circle,
Mhm.
I think I've weeded out those things.
Got it. So,
Now,
you've not
do I see
because not every
people? I'm
Go
sorry.
ahead.
Mm-mm.
Go ahead. I was gonna say
No, I was
not
just
everybody's perfect, right?
right.
So, there are some people who have toxic traits, but the relationship is manageable. You just know, okay, and I'm making up a name. So Don, he's supposed to come to the party tonight, or I'm not gonna invite Don this time because I know his mindset is gonna be a little negative, or his mindset might be XYZ. So you know what? I'm gonna have him not come this time, but I'm gonna have him come that time. You know what I'm saying? Like almost, um,
I think
you
that
know
comes
what
with
setting they need to be
right.
in.
I think that comes with maturity. So I'm gonna say two things. I know people that I socialize with or will hang out and necessarily don't agree with everything they think and do.
Right.
But most of the times, if I'm in that setting with them, they don't, I hate to use the word do, but they don't do the things that I consider toxic around me.
Okay.
That's the first thing. And secondly, I think in a setting, when you invite people or you're invited, you know that saying, when a black person gets invited, the first thing they're gonna say, who all gonna be there?
Yes, who all gonna be there? I need to test the energy back. Like, what you
So with
saying?
that in mind,
Who gonna
you
be
keep in
there?
mind like, oh, such and such is gonna be there. Maybe I don't wanna participate in this event. Because once again, with maturity, every event is not meant for me to be at.
True, true. Not meant for you, but thinking about those people that you deal with. Hell, there are family members that that Lord forgive me, it's my truth though. There are family members that I never never want to have like that closeness with you get what I'm saying? And I don't mean that in a negative way.
I know
It's
because you and
just
I have spoken about that, and I think the difference between you and I is are I have a really well, I have a really small, I have a large family, but I interact with a very small amount of them.
mhm,
So I can truly say when I get around my immediate family, and we're talking
mhm,
parents and siblings,
mhm.
I don't. No one in that immediate core is someone I would say I don't need to be around. You're looking outside it as a bigger core for me to start
Right.
getting to those. Oh, she's gonna be there. I don't. I ain't going. Um, but like I say, it comes with maturity. At this age, I can filter out what I am in control of what I want to do and who I want to be with.
True, and that's how it should be. That's how it should be. Um, so it sounds like what you're saying, this kinda goes to my next point with creating boundaries, right? So in any relationship, I'll say, there should always be boundaries.
Okay.
There should be.
Okay.
Boundaries are healthy, in my opinion.
Okay.
Um, but a part of setting those boundaries is knowing, hey, I'm in control of this and my energy and where I am and who I'm around. So if anything is impacting that, I need to figure out what my next steps need to be. You know what I'm
Okay.
saying? Well, I'll say this. I think there are those friends sometimes who, or not even friends, people that will be around you and every time you look up, they're saying something like, "Oh, well, you can do it," or "Did you ever get this done? Did you finish that? What's going on with this? Like, how can I help?" You know what I'm saying? There are those people who are like that, which I personally love to be around. But of course, you can't be around people like that all the time. But you have on the flip side of that, people who are like, "No, that's not gonna work. Mm-mm, mm-mm, it's not gonna work. You shouldn't do this," or you know, like that negative outlook on
The
just
naysayers,
anything.
oh, this.
Yeah.
So, but it goes to you as an individual. That should be, sometimes that needs to be your motivation. And I don't say that to prove them wrong,
Mhm.
but to know that you can do it. Because
Yeah,
sometimes
true.
I think we do stuff just to say, I'm gonna prove to this such and such that I can do it.
Mhm.
And that's not always, at least for me, let me say this. That's not going to be my motivation to accomplish something just because you don't believe in me. I believe in myself. I don't need you to believe in me.
Mhm. True, and that's I think that's a strength that comes over time for some people. I think that
Yes,
some people aren't, um,
born
born with
with it.
that. Yeah,
And they,
that
it just isn't. And I get that. It, for me, a lot of this stuff came as I have matured.
Mhm.
I think the late teens, early 20-year-old Dorian, I would have needed that that boost.
Mhm. Mhm.
But let's forward 25 years later, I don't necessarily need it.
Mhm.
I'm
Mhm.
my biggest cheerleader. And if it's something I really want, I know
Mhm.
I'm gonna I'm gonna do everything that I have been granted to make sure that it happens.
Alright. In this growth that you've had with and I shouldn't say on this journey that you were on, or in this journey that you were on, to become the person who now is able to say, I'm going to root myself on, I'm going to do this, I'm going to do that. What principles did you have to adapt to be able to become this person now? You get what I'm saying? What did you have to change about you? What did you have to focus on? How did you get there?
I don't know. I don't know that I had to change anything. I think I just had to start believing in myself more. I will say, as
Okay.
a younger Dorian, I didn't necessarily believe in myself.
But how does one start to believe in themselves?
For me, I think so. To answer that question, I think I have an answer for you. I had to stop comparing myself with other people.
Oh, come on now. Wait. I felt that. Okay. I'm
Honestly,
so
I believe that's really it. I just had to stop comparing myself with thinking I needed to be exactly where everybody else was, or going to every place that everybody else was going to. Do I
mm,
say the young me was toxic to myself? Because we sometimes internally have toxic internal.
true. True. Come on now. Like,
So for me, it was like I said, even now, it's just a matter of believing in myself and not comparing myself to my peers.
mhm. I think I'm on or I have been on that journey because I'll admit a big part of my life I've always been well, what would he think? Or what would she think? Or what would they say? Or I can't do this. And it goes back to like I told you before with that relationship I was trying to hold on to. I can't be. They already think that, this, that, and the other. So I can understand that for some people it may be a slower process
Hmm.
because I I have been that person where what other people thought matters, and I still kind of am. It's a it's a process. Okay, it's a process, but in that process, though, I remind myself of how much I'm worth. You know what I'm saying? I remind myself of how good I am,
Hmm.
how committed I am, how I'll put it like this. I got to a point to where I started realizing how much I put out, and I started reminding myself of what I put out. You get what I'm saying? And when you start reminding yourself, you ain't got to remind nobody else. They know what you've done for them. They know who you've been to them. Okay? There's
Right.
nothing you need to do to remind them of shit. Okay? It's you. I told myself, "You know what? I've been doing this, I've been doing that, I've been doing this. I've done all these things for all these people, which is okay because that's who I am, and, I'm always gonna try to do the right thing, but what's wrong with giving myself those things? What's wrong with giving myself that recognition? I don't need anybody else to recognize me, but what about giving myself that recognition?" So I will say even this morning, I had to remind myself, you know what? Here's what I do. Here's what I do. I make sure I do this, right? I make sure I'm there or whatever the case may be. There's nothing wrong with me giving myself the flowers that I should get. You know what
Your
I'm saying?
accolades, absolutely correct.
Whew, child. Okay.
So when it comes to so when it comes to toxic relationships,
Yeah.
internally, externally, with family members and friends, how do you navigate around them other than avoidance? I know you mentioned earlier that you just avoid, and you were speaking about, I think, family members at that time. Is there another
Yeah.
way you
So let me be
remove
clear on that.
okay.
With family, now that's family, that's my people. We connected by blood. I'm always gonna make sure I check on you, make sure you're good. But I'm
Right.
talking about that closeness because just by right, some energies for me just don't mix, and that's regardless of who you are, what you got. So there's a separation that happens where okay, I love you. I want to be close. I want to be close to you for those that I know would be healthy for my mental
Mhm.
um, or even healthy for me spiritually, because some people do carry some demons with them, I'm just gonna say it, that can latch on and affect your spirit. So there's a separation. I check in, or I try to call and check in. Like, I want to make sure you're okay. But as far as us having that closeness, or you, oh well, he did this and she did that, the gossiping and the hatred, or the whatever you call it, that's where I draw the line. Okay, girl, well, I'm gonna call you later. Love you, and I hope everybody's well. Send everybody my, blessing, or my love. See you later. Um, and I think that's okay. And a lot of them, it's probably the same case. They, for whatever their reasons are, don't want to have a relationship with me. You know what I'm saying?
Okay.
Um, and I think that in itself, it's it's almost like God is working to protect us in situations, like you said before. Like,
Baby,
he knows what he's doing.
he
But
knows it. You may not understand it at the moment that door slammed in your face, but trust and believe you'll eventually understand that was a
mhm,
blessing for it to be, slammed in your face. It has
true,
totally been removed out of your life.
true. Um, so I think that's one thing, right? So separating, know who you're dealing with, what it is that
Hmm.
they do to you, or what is unhealthy for you,
Hmm.
and conduct or handle the relationship accordingly. If you know this is somebody that you shouldn't be going out to the club with, don't go to the club with them. You know what I'm saying? If you
Yeah.
know this is somebody that you shouldn't bring around your man, don't bring them around your man. Like,
It's it's funny you said that because I had a talk with one of my friends the other day, and we were just chatting it up, and
uh-huh.
he had kind of made mention of some other people, and he had just made a comment like, in the heyday, I would never bring such and such around my man
Mhm.
because that person at that stage of their life, you could tell them per se, hey, I'm dealing with this person, or this person and I are getting to know each other. And
Mhm.
he said, you look around, you go to the bathroom, and now all of a sudden they want to do lap dances and be hee hee and ha ha and talking about,
Oh,
I
baby.
got your man number. And it's like,
What? That's so
but I listened to the conversation, and it goes to where I said before, I've never even allowed that type of friendship in my life.
mhm,
And if I ever got wind that someone around me was like that, I typically remove myself.
mhm,
I mean, you know me personally. I don't like confrontation. So
mhm.
I try to keep myself so far removed away from it in my personal life. Now, sometimes you can be in your personal life and think you're in a good space, and these things present themselves.
True,
But it goes also of knowing how to handle that situation.
true, true. So, but I'll say this, I do think it is still possible, though, to have some form of relationship with a person that might not have the healthiest impacts sometimes. You know what I'm saying? Because connections are connections.
They are.
Go ahead.
I'm just gonna say with those type of people, I tend to, if I like you that much that I'm still wanting to deal with you, I'm probably just gonna deal with you in an extremely small group.
Got it.
You'll never be part of the big events.
Mhm,
That
mhm,
doesn't mean you can't come. Oh, I'm just having you and one other person over.
mhm.
Because we all have that friend in our life that we know are over the top.
True, true,
And
true.
no matter where you go with this friend, it's like they have to be the center of attention.
Uh-huh, uh-huh, and
And
th
it's like, I need to turn him or her down. So you know how I control turning him or her down? You won't get invited to my big soirees. You're going to
Yeah.
get invited to the smaller stuff that I can have a little bit more control over.
Mhm. All right. So, okay, well, I'll do this then. So, and I say so a lot, don't I? All right, so yeah, I did it again. Here's what I'm gonna share, okay? Here's what I'm gonna share.
Share.
So, some tips to help with not only navigating those relationships, but finding a place where you can heal and gain a better grip on what works for you. So first you want to recognize the signs, right?
Hmm.
That is key. You need to know not only who you are, but what it is about this person, like I said before, that makes you uncomfortable or um, makes you feel bad, right? Set boundaries. Setting boundaries is key. And it's okay.
It's important.
It's important. It is important. It's okay. And you deserve it. Okay. If you know that this is going to be the person that's going to bring your mood down, it's okay to say, you know what? Can't answer right now, boo. I'll call you back and give me an hour or so, so that you can mentally prepare for what you already know the relationship is going to pull out of you. It's okay. And I know this borders the line of gossiping, so I'm going to be very clear. It's okay to seek help. And when I say seek help, if it's a relationship that you feel warrants counseling, or if it's impacted you in a way that warrants counseling, yes, get counseling. But you can also rely on friends, right? Other friends, people that may know them, people that may interact with them, who might be able to give you guidance on what what they may see from the outside looking in, and
Hmm.
also they may be able to help strategize with different ways that you can approach being around or having that connection with that person going forward, right?
Okay.
Prioritize yourself. This is another one, right? The fourth one. Look, I was ready. Look, prioritize yourself. It is okay for you to put you first. Most times, you're the only person that's going to understand fully what's going on with you, right?
Okay.
It's okay to do things that bring you joy. It's okay to do things that give you mindfulness, or if you meditate, it's okay to do those things, especially when you know that this interaction is about to come. Do those things so that you can create that center for yourself before you even get into the mix. Last thing I'm going to say. You ready, Dorian?
I'm ready.
It's okay. Like Dorian said before, he normally removes himself, or that's not a person he deals with. It is okay to have an exit strategy. Knowing
Finish. I hear you loud and clear.
and I say this because I've had to do the soul searching. I've had to learn how to prioritize myself and be okay prioritizing myself. I've gone through counseling. I've look, I'm pro counseling all day long every day. But knowing when to cut the relationship can save you heartache, it can save you pain, it can save you financial problems, depending on the relationship, it can truly add to. So never think that just because you putting something down that you're losing or missing out, because that's not the case.
That is
You're
not.
putting it down for a reason, okay? You're tired of carrying it. You're tired of having to fix it and put it back together again, whatever that may be. You're putting it down for a reason, and that is okay.
That exit plan is there for a reason. And I must tell you, I like that last reasoning. Always have an exit plan.
True.
Always.
And especially if you're in an abusive situation, I will say no one knows the insides of that relationship. However, you know how that relationship makes you feel. And what's at risk is your life. So if you are in an abusive relationship, reach out for help. There's always a way. And we'll actually upload some resources for domestic violence victims, and we'll make sure that you know that you have support out there.
I'm so glad, in my years, I've never been in a abusive relationship.
I was young, I was impressionable, I was naive, I was gullible, whatever you want to call it. But in that moment and going through it, there were times where I felt like there was no one who understood how much I loved him and how he's still a good person, although he does these things to me. You know what I'm saying? I, over time, started to realize that it did not feel good and I couldn't see a future. I could not see the future. So when you can't see the future and there are no good thoughts that come to mind, like, oh, I hope this, I hope that, I think maybe that was the trigger for me. I think God let me know that there's no future there, and it's time for you to go, like, run, go. Like, it
But
is what it is, but we all go through things, and I think the key is to know that you're not alone when you go through it, and that you always have options. There are options.
I am now good at calling certain friends and say, "What are you doing?" Nothing. I just call the vent just to get it off my chest, to hear me talk. Because sometimes me calling you and saying, "Oh, I just got to tell you this," it helps me
Mhm.
figure out
It helps.
how to
Yeah.
deal with it.
So if you have not already, stop by our website, www.blackgaytabletalk.com, where you can take a look at merchandise. You can visit our retail therapy shop. You also have the opportunity to check out other episodes. We have marriage sessions with Keenan and Dominic, and we have the Trans Takeover series. So if you have not already, stop by, join. You have membership options, and we thank you for watching.
Thank you.